And we are live. What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Doctor of Stuff channel. I'm your host, Doctor of Stuff, but you can call me Doc. As I always say, everything we discuss here is just our opinions and our thoughts. This is not financial advice. We are not financial advisors. I would love to introduce my guest here, Patient Hodler. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, getting ready for the big trip.
I know. Hey, so show everyone that hoodie, man. That is sweet. That is seriously awesome.
Thanks to whoever made that artwork, and thanks to VeVe for producing or for bringing that up. So I really love this thing already, and it arrived today. So
that is awesome, and it couldn't have been timed more perfectly.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna have to say, O'Milly, you got your work cut out for you, man. It looks like there's some competition because that hoodie is pretty sick, man. That's sick.
But thanks for having me. So I just jumped in with that hoodie, but obviously thanks for having me. Thanks for being back on your channel. And I'm looking forward to all the topics. I mean, it's midnight here, but probably we need like 2 hours to discuss everything.
Oh my gosh, there's a lot to discuss. And so for those of you, Patient Hodler, for those of the viewers who may not know who you are, give them a little bit of a background on you, how you got into VeVe, your YouTube channel, all that jazz.
Yeah. Okay. So when I found ECOMI, and through ECOMI found VeVe by my cousin, so big long story. But I will cut the story short. I watched a couple of the YouTubers that were in the VeVe fam, in the ECOMI fam, talking about ECOMI and VeVe, and I was digging myself a lot into the then proposed tokenomics, like OMI utility program back then, when there were tiers and perks like renting collectibles, burning collectibles, breakage fees, and stuff like that. Things that would make OMI deflationary. I dug into it and I thought, okay, no one is at the moment, not many people are talking on this level about it. So I thought about making a YouTube channel, and I started one, which is called Patient Hodler, like my name. So if anyone here doesn't know it yet, then come over and check it out. But most importantly is that you smash the like button right here. And over the time, I evolved from talking about ECOMI tokenomics, about shortcomings of ECOMI, and due to the nature of the situation, I want to go back to calculating when OMI basically ceases to exist due to deflationary mechanics. But for now, I think we are a little bit stuck at where we are right now.
Yeah, I agree. And we're going to dive into that, right? So one of the comments here was close to capitulation on OMI yesterday when watching Randy's stream. Very interesting. Saying watching Randy's stream and
exactly
capitulation. You'll have to fill me in. I didn't catch Randy's stream, so that'd be interesting to hear what about it, Ian. His stream was brought you.
I thought you would say when I saw Patient Hodler and Ron or something like that, right? I'd say that he then wanted to capitulate, but on Randy's stream, what happened?
Yeah, that is surprising. We got pop culture in the house, and we're gonna talk about that. And you know what? Why don't we do that first? Why don't we? Because we're gonna talk about VeVe and their drops and some other stuff like that, right? But I think because this is pretty breaking news, right? I think the post happened not too long ago.
2 hours ago. 2 hours ago, the tweet.
Oh wow. Yeah. Okay. So here, let me give me a second. I'm gonna share my screen here so that people can actually see this post. Here, okay. We're gonna go to pop cultures. Share the screen.
Yeah, I think it's is something more unexpected, but it kind of raises a lot of speculation, right? So
So I'm going to read this, right? So this is from Pop Culture's account here. 2 hours ago, they just said they wanted to give an update on the state of pop culture. They've had a great journey with the collectors so far, and they're excited for what the future holds. But there's this message here in their post telling quid collectors that they've been excited over the past 18 months plus that they've been creating content and doing drops on Quid, right? So like, and I'm not going to say that right. Nia Ching, Lucky Cat drop, Todd Goldman, Florida Cat, Summer at the Cinema, Starchives, and so it looks like a lot more things there, right? And
maybe you can click that and make it a little bit bigger because it's a photo, I think, so that I think
there
like
we
this
go.
people can
There
see
we
it.
go.
Yeah.
Good call. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, and it's just kind of like talking about certain things, but here in the middle it says, sadly, it looks like our tenure at Quid has come to an end for reasons that are out of our control. Quid has failed to live up to its obligations and has not paid for any drops since October 1st of last year. Now, I'm not sure, I'm not aware of um, if they've done drops since October or if they did that drop in October and then they stopped after not getting the payment for that. That would be interesting if Pop Culture might want to jump in the chat and say how many drops they've done on Quid since October 1st. That would be interesting to know. Until we can ensure that we are being paid, we have no choice but to ask Quid to stop selling any of our primary packs and stop all secondary market transactions. That would make sense, right? Because if Quid is making money off that and then they are not passing on funds to Pop Culture, obviously not kosher, and I'm sure against contractual obligations there. I would assume against contractual obligations, and this also goes for their co-op drops with their friends at Identity. And yeah, for them to say like, look, they've almost a 2-year long relationship and that it's ending this way. I like this though, right? Like they're not like attacking Quid in any way, right? They're kind of saying like, hey, we're disappointed and these are the facts. This is what's happening. But still like overall trying to be positive with the collectors. I think that it'd be interesting to see, right? Because and to try to take a step back, right, and be fair, we don't know Quid's side of the story by chance, and so maybe there's some issues with contracts and like was Pop Culture supposed to do something or what's happening there, and so Quid wasn't releasing payment. We don't know, so I would expect and maybe Quid will be drafting a response. So we should keep our eyes out for that, or people watching the chat. It'd be interesting to see here, but yeah, kind of.
They responded. They responded how many drops they did in the
What's
chat.
that?
Pop Culture responded how many drops they did in the chat.
Yeah, and I'm sure. Look, if there's kind of legal stuff going on, that's when you can't really start talking. If there's a potential lawsuit in the works or there's concerns there, we understand that Pop Culture can't talk about it. But something public like, hey, so they've done over 10 drops between October and December, right? So 10 drops that they haven't been paid on so far. That's pretty wild. I'd love to get your thoughts on that. Do you think that there's some potential financial concerns at Quid, right? Like, because Quid has other partners too. We haven't seen anything from any other partners. I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so before the stream, because I'm not active on Quid, I quickly looked. I found some this roadshow pictures, and I also saw that there are some $2 packs or so that you can open from them. So I'm not familiar with the content of all of these drops, and it looks to me that you can from the official store buy these things for a couple of dollars. There are some things in this statement that stand out to me. So first of all, we don't know the background history, so I'm not here to judge any side, like nor Pop Culture nor Quid. It's just a matter of fact that they are alleging or saying, or I believe them when they say they haven't been paid since the 1st of October. I don't know the circumstances of why. Can have to do with the contracts, as you say. It could, in the worst case, have to do with solvency of Quid, but that is mere speculation because I don't know any circumstances of Quid, if they have been doing well. If not, we know that a couple of other NFT marketplaces are shutting down. We have seen GameStop NFT marketplace basically shutting down due to, I think, lack of interest, lack of sales. So that could be a reason. One thing that stands out to me where Quid would bury themselves, I think, is that they are demanding, pop culture's demanding Quid to seize the transactions on secondary market. And I think in a Web3 world, even if you are in a walled garden, you should not do that, because once in the end, it's a pop culture fan, or maybe someone who just wants to sell something to buy something else or so. If you take away the possibility to sell the object for that person, then you go again, even though it's about secondary market fees, but you in the end you go against your collector, right? And so yeah, that would be like, hey, let's say you have Todd Batmans and so on VeVe, and then they have beef with DC, and they seize the possibility to buy and sell Todds on the VeVe app. That would be disastrous, in my opinion.
I get where you're coming from, I guess. So here's another question for you, though. If they don't stop the secondary sales and Quid is getting that money and then they're not paying it out, right? Like, because I mean, as we see some of the VeVe contracts, right? Like there's a certain percentage that the IP is getting for secondary sales. If they're not getting any of that money, all of that money is going to Quid, who then, if there is a lawsuit, now has more and more funds to fund the lawsuit against it, right?
Yeah.
So I mean,
but that's a matter for a court, where you have to process then Quid to pay you. This is nothing yet that you can put on the shoulders of your collectors, because the person already spent money. And if I buy a pop culture drop and I have that collectible in my wallet, then I did my obligation. I paid money for that, and then the obligation of Quid to pay the exact licensor fees to pop culture from primary and secondary markets. So that is not on me, and I think the person should not be punished for that. So they need to, exactly like Biscuit says here, pop culture would have to sue them for getting this share, not to demand seizing a secondary market transaction. Because I mean, what would happen if you let's just imagine Marvel or Disney or DC or whoever on the VeVe app would demand that. The price would probably take a nosedive, because everyone would try to sell before that secondary market shuts down. So that would be disastrous.
Yeah. No, I agree. Well, so here's one of the interesting things too, right? Slider made this comment, but some of the drops are mintable to ETH, right? So yeah, some of those are going to continue to sell and to be traded. And I'm wondering if once they're minted to ETH, if pop culture, like how that then, do they get any fees from the secondary market, or is that kind of lost in that transition, right, to layer one? Because like, as we well know, there's a lot of platforms now that aren't enforcing royalties, and so man, that'd be interesting to know how that impacts them anyways. But I guess it also kind of depends though on the funds that pop culture has. I mean, it still sounds like they're doing things. They started creating. Let's see. They hope to continue the relationship with the collectors, so it'll be interesting to see like where else they go, or what other relationships they have. To where can they continue? Are they still making money, because they've got to have to fund this lawsuit? Like Marvel or Disney, right? If they wanted to sue VeVe, they've got the funds. But like, it depends on the entity, and they're just but I agree, right? It does ultimately, if they're ceasing the secondary market transactions, ultimately the one who is most harmed, at least initially, are the collectors themselves. So that is something that they may want to consider if they haven't, and maybe they have, and they still feel like this is the best way forward. But I do think that there might be some collectors who get frustrated at that. And that might put a bad taste in their mouth regarding pop culture. So something to think about there. Yeah.
I mean, I understand them. I understand them that they want to take any action that brings them the money back. I understand that. With regards to that, some marketplaces are not enforcing royalties. That is something that you have to think of before you create the NFTs, because in a perfect Web3 world, you can only transfer an NFT when you then pay this fee instantly, and it gets sent over to the original creator, right? The original idea of music NFTs art was that the artist always gets a share on this transaction, no matter where it's transacted to, and that even the marketplaces cannot really do anything against this, right? So that would basically be like a gas fee on a DEX or so, that you have to have this share already in the wallet in Ethereum, for example, and transact it to this artist. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to transact the NFT. So that would be in an ideal or in a perfect world. Unfortunately, it isn't like that. Otherwise, I think everyone would just mint their stuff somewhere on any marketplace and bring it into circulation themselves.
Yeah. Man, interesting times. Like that's we'll have to see. I do expect that I would imagine that Quid is going to go out, right, and make some sort of statement relatively quickly to kind of address the situation. Very interesting there. And this just goes to show, right? Like there's risk everywhere. And with this has happened, like you said, with GameStop. Like there's a lot of these marketplaces have just financially really struggled to continue to with all of the fixed expenses they have, and then potential variable expenses, to make it a viable company and to move forward longer than like a year or two. And that's why it is interesting. Like if I think about Cryptoys, like, and I'm sure that they're aware of this, like they need a marketplace, right? Because they're going to also get some fees from people buying and sell, or trading on the secondary market. And a lot of people have kind of like lost interest, or it's really difficult without knowing a time frame as to like when there is going to be a marketplace to want to purchase more things, because they're just like, well, I'll wait until there is a marketplace. In the meantime, right, there's a capital burn where they're continuing to pay employees and to do these things. So and interestingly enough, right, Quid is backed by Animoca Brands. And Animoca, they definitely have, I mean, they're not an endless money pit, but they're a very big entity, right? And they have their hands in a lot of cookie jars all over the industry. They have like a subsidiary that does, VC, like pre-seed funding, like, I mean, just so much stuff. So they're in a lot of gaming stuff. So I feel it's almost like they would have to have the money. So for me, we gotta sit back and kind of wait a little bit to see. Let's see if there's any.
I think I really hope that Quid does not have any problems there. As you said, hopefully they have the backing, even if they have less sales and so on. I really hope that they do not announce that they go out of business or close down, because that would be bad for the space and for the entire industry, and that would raise automatically the question, who's next? And together with what someone said in the chat right now, that we have 700 active wallets in daily transactions, I think today or yesterday or something like that. There are already some people that are talking is VeVe all right? And if Quid would go out of business, I think this talk would intensify. And it's never good if potential future investors are scared off because they think they might be buying the rests of a dying project, right? And that in itself can turn into a spiral. Do I think that VeVe has a serious problem? No, but I think that the active wallets and the size of transactions is significantly down, so much that it's not good, let's say. Yeah.
Sure. And we can talk about that, right? I think one thing to keep in mind, typically consumer, like retail spending, drops significantly in January, right? Just like all over the industry, right? Because people have just spent a ton of money on Christmas and vacations and all of that. And so in January and February, a lot of like additional money that people typically have, like they're shoring things up. They're paying off credit cards. They're doing other things, like, so I've just seen that in the retail industry that typically their lowest months of sales are typically, man, I just said typically like 3 times. My apologies. But at the beginning of the year, and it's because of the holidays there. So
yeah,
I think that information is important to keep an eye on, but I'm definitely interested to see the next couple months and how does that rebound, or does it stay the same, or does it drop? I think that is important to keep our eye on with that. So
Christmas is one effect, but there's another effect that I feel on myself, and I think you feel it probably as well, and everyone else in the fam. If you just look at all the YouTubers that are still with us, like Danny the Bull and so on, if you look where the attention went, we clearly went with the attention to altcoins at the moment, and I found myself as well to say, rather than buying a 100 gem secret rare, I'd put $100 in an altcoin that could 6x, right, in a matter of 2 weeks. That's at the moment the season, and we cannot forget that most of the people on VeVe came through the crypto space, so it's very likely that they direct their money flow back to altcoins and Bitcoin and so on, while this is a hot narrative. So VeVe might have to endure a full year of low trading volume.
Yeah, well, you say a full year. We'll see, because I do think also savvy investors typically, right, they're rolling money from projects that have popped into projects that are down. And so if people do see value in VeVe collectibles long term, right, if the bull run is starting to happen and they're taking some of those funds and they are going to be rolling it into, and that's honestly for me one of the things that I plan on doing is there are certain collectibles that I still don't have yet that I'm like, oh, well, things are really down here, but crypto is pumping. I do want to take advantage of some of those collectibles that, but again, that's just me. And I agree that it's not everyone. And I think that it is telling in general to see a lot of the VeVe YouTubers, how they have pivoted a little bit, and some of their interest has been sparked by the tokens that have been pumping, right? Well, OMI has stayed the same or kind of down, like it's fluctuated, right? It's gone down, it's gone up. So look, there's some things here. Dina, we'll get back to this comment later, but first let's kind of go in order with let's jump to VeVe and we'll get to TB's comment here. 16,000 active wallets in December. This is where I think it's important, right? To kind of also look, we don't just look at like one data point and just be like, the world is over, 700 active wallets. This is crazy. It's like, well, okay, hold on just a second. There was 16,000 in December. So we got to take all of the information together or gather additional data points, right, before even making statements or assumptions. And that's what I'm saying. Let's also look, February and into March and say, does that trend up? Does it stay stable at kind of this lower volume, or does it drop here?
Yes. Yeah. It's true. It's one data point, but an all-time low is an important data point. So if you are at all-time lows for daily active wallets, that's an important single data point, in my opinion. It's like saying, okay, 15,500 BTC is just one data point. Yes, you have to see the trend and also look right now, hey, could 700 be the bottom, for example? Is that where the hardcore users are that will stay always active and then turn around and creep up again? But I think it's still noteworthy that we are very low, and it's nothing to neglect, but it's also not the end of the world, because you just need one interesting drop and it's back up a couple of thousand users, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing too. If there's so many variables, I agree, the all-time low, but also taking into context when we're saying all-time low and we're looking at VeVe's relatively short length of existence, right? Like, so we have, I mean, we could technically say, well, I would assume that technically the all-time low for VeVe active wallets would have been in January of 2021. But they just launched, right? So then we go to January of 2022. That's near like the all-time highs when prices are going crazy. We've got bots, we've got all of that. So that number is just like, heavily inflated, right? And then even January of 2023, the market is still kind of turbulent. It's trending downwards, but now we're getting to like we've been in the bear market for almost all of 2023. We started to come out. We started kind of a pre-bull run is what I call it, and you start to see this historically, right, where certain tokens start popping off as sentiment changes and things, and so you would then expect, and yeah. Anyways, there's a lot there, but I get your point, and I don't disagree that it being an all-time low is a data point to pay attention to. So, but we'll see how things go. I mean, if we're going from 16,000 users in December to an all-time low of 700 active wallets, and I don't know if that's like on a week or just like a day.
No, it's a daily. The 700 is a daily low. Like, but
okay.
I think it's also not wrong cycle-wise. I mean, I don't know if you have seen it, probably not, because we are creating videos and content. We cannot watch everything from everyone else. But I did a video on how the money flows in altcoin season, and I attached a segment of the NFT season. And this is why I say we have another full year of lower volume in front of us, because if you everything from Google Trends, which I use there, but also the money flow of Bitcoin to large caps, small caps, micro caps, and then NFTs suggests that NFTs are lagging roughly a year behind the rest, which also coincides. If you see the last bull run that VeVe had was when we were already in a bear market for altcoins, and since a longer time for Bitcoin. So it was already going down, right? Everything was already going down in the crypto space, but and VeVe had the big season. And I think it could be happening just because of the money flowing in that way once again like this. And this would put us, if we are lagging 1 year behind and we have pumped with Bitcoin 1 year right now, we would be at the bottom right now. So just in terms of money flow. And then if we had a mechanic where we could just move USDT into the VeVe app, I think it would be a little bit of a different story, because right now, for example, I have a little bit of stables, and I'm too lazy to move these stables to my bank account and then convert that into gems and lose some fees on the way and so on. So I'd rather go with some other altcoins. But I would be, if I could just send that over to the VeVe app, I would be tempted to buy a bigger secret rare comic right now with this USDT, right? So it's just, see, I'm influenced by the possibilities that I have.
Yeah, and I think it's very important. Opportunity cost is a big thing. And I think that you have to actively, continuously assess that, right? And so I get some people, you know, like I'm in an OMI Well group, and there are some people, and Jordan's talked about it too, right? Where he sold some of his OMI. Now he was so heavily into OMI, like I did not feel like he was diversified enough. And you know, on these Around the Comiverse streams, the Crypto Rain and I would be like, you should diversify. We tell Randy about it. And look, here's the thing: as long as people understand like the risk and they're willing to take that, like I'm not going to take anything away from that. So people who give Randy like a hard time, and people who are attacking Randy personally, knock that shiz off. Seriously, knock it off. Go find something better to do with your life. If you don't agree with that investment, fine. And you can be like, that's crazy, right? Like, I don't agree with that. I don't think that that's a smart thing. But like, to attack someone personally, let's just stop that, people. Just stop that. So sorry, that's a tangent. I got really upset about all of that. But like I don't agree with Randy's thing. Like, I can't do that. That's too big of a risk for me. Mm-hmm. But it is like an extremely high risk, extremely high reward. Like if OMI pans out, right, and OMI does crazy, he's gonna be richer than all of us because of that, right? But it's not necessarily for me. So going back off the tangent of opportunity cost, even with there's a massive opportunity cost when we're saying, well, is there another token right now? As tokens are pumping, well, not today, right? In general, and the market overall is down in crypto, but like people are looking and saying, okay, well, I could buy this secret rare, and maybe it could go up. What's its chance of going up even a 2x or a 3x in the short term compared to some other tokens that I could get into that are small market caps that like are in a narrative? and maybe I'm going to put my funds towards that. But I love your point about if we had the crypto, if we could enter the crypto side of things, whether that's OMI to NFT, whether that's being able to move stable coins over, some way to use our crypto and bring it into VeVe. And I think that that's coming. Did you see my tweet? So a buddy of mine, he reached out to me, he texted me, and he's like, "Hey, did you see the Supreme Court rejected or decided not to review Epic Games versus Apple, right? And that whole decision of because a judge had made the decision basically telling Apple, hey, you can't block these apps, these creators, right, from having a different payment link, sending their users to a different payment link. Because right now we're forced to only use Apple's. And when we do that, right, then Apple's taking that 30% away, not just from VeVe, but from any creator who has an app on that, right? Like it's a monopoly basically. And so a judge had ruled, hey, Apple, you can't do that. And then they had said, well, we're going to take this Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said, we're not going to review it, which basically has forced that decision back down to say, okay, well, that's what's standing. So how do you think that impacts VeVe going forward? And even tied to crypto, right? Because couldn't they then link it to like a Web3 application where you could then use like your MetaMask or something like that to make these payments?
Yeah, so it's an interesting thought. I just don't see right now they have launched, I think for a reason, direct web access to the VeVe web application, so to say. They could integrate OMI only from web app and don't integrate it for the mobile app. Then they would not have any conflict with the App Store, as far as I know. So they could have a crypto cash in via web app, just as they have other functionalities that work from the web app. I think, what is it? Is that there was something I forgot. Yeah, crypto cash out, the cash out functionality is only from web app, right? Or is it that one? Or something is only available from web app? I don't even remember anymore what it was. I think it was maybe the cash out.
The cash out, when we could cash out with crypto?
No, yeah, we could. That is
yes.
disabled, but that was
Correct.
only from web app, I think. So the crypto
Correct.
cash in would also be only on the web app. So technically, it's possible, right?
But
so
if
it
you
doesn't
can do
have
that,
to do with Apple.
it does have to do with Apple. Well, yes and no, because until they created the web app, right, like they were just stuck paying those 30% fees. Now, for the
Yes.
longest time, I knew like the thing is, and VeVe just recently came out with the ability to access the web app on your phone. Before you could only do it by the computer, and I was just like, look, when I'm doing some of these drops, and I decide like, oh, I want to buy another one. Like, I'm not going to go I can't access my computer. I can't do that. So I was just buying the gems on my phone, right? Now that you have the web app, that does make it easier. But even then, the simplest route to people's money is like people want to take the least path of resistance.
Yep.
The least path is truly to just push the app button and go in there and be able to do that. Now, if there is a payment link through an API now that will take from the app directly to the web app and to do the transaction and still have everything in the app, which wasn't allowed until the Supreme Court has now said,
okay,
we're not going to take it. Now that's going to be allowed to happen. Now, I don't know the timing on that, but basically anyone who's in the app can still be redirected to the web app to do all of those transactions there while still being in the Apple app as opposed to on a web app or web URL on my iPhone.
Yeah, that would solve the problem. Yeah, and that would be big if they could do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, well,
but it doesn't have anything to do with crypto cash in or cash out, I think.
It can, because they can also use that, redirect you to a MetaMask link to then, if you wanted to pay with crypto, you could do it that way. Right now, you'd have to be a verified user, and this gets into AML, KYC stuff, right? They still have to verify that the user, so they might only allow that for certain levels of users, because they do have to be aware, they're liable for money laundering type activity, and keeping their eye on that, right? So it does
But I
expose
think
them
it
to more.
wouldn't be through them. I think it wouldn't be through them. I think it would be through their fiat on-ramp provider. What that is, it Neum, or what is the name of that? What also provides the service for the cash out. They would basically receive the crypto, sell it, and get the gems, right? It would not be a direct crypto integration. The normal crypto to
Correct, but regardless, so one of the things that they have to be aware of, even if VeVe is not the on ramp, off ramp, they are supposed to be identifying suspicious activity and reporting that to
Okay.
whoever is the fiat on ramp, off ramp. I would assume that that is in the contract. That's typically what you see with like third party vendors when they work with financial institutions, right? Financial institutions can outsource some of the actions, and they typically do the actions of monitoring some of those transactions, but then those financial institutions, like you said, they do hold ultimate responsibility. They can outsource the actions but not the responsibility. However, right, like, I don't know New Zealand law, and that could be a completely different thing, where New Zealand could also be like, look, if those transactions are happening on your platform, you could also be held liable for that. But anyways, going back to that, like, I still think that it is a way for them to also tie in crypto, to be able to pay with a crypto wallet.
Mhm.
And that might take some time, but I got extremely excited about that option, because I do think that that opportunity cost of VeVe not having that link, and that tie into crypto, has been massive for the type of gains that they can have. But I think that that decision for the Supreme Court not to review it is big, not just for VeVe, but for any app developer on Apple. Like, that's a big deal.
So could the new single sign-on, the new mask, have to do anything with that we just saw? Because technically it would be something, hey, you fill in your password, but you actually log on to several applications?
Could be. It could be. Yeah. I mean, I don't think that they did that just for fun. you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah,
I mean,
I mean, it could be that you are logging on to Epico
cavernous.
webshop at the same time or so, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like, it could be cavernous in the VBverse type thing, right?
Yeah.
Where that single sign in could be tied to that, right? And obviously, I don't know. Did you see the cavernous thing? People have kind
Yeah.
of talked about that, and I hadn't planned to talk about that. Got to
Did you
shout
see
out
it?
Randy. I did briefly. Do you want me to? Do you want me to pull it up? Do you want to chat about this a little bit?
Yeah, why not? Because so I saw it on a video of Living Aloha, very small channel, YouTube channel. But if you go on the Cavernous site and scroll down, you see basically a business comment from Daniel Crothers, a co-founder of VeVe. And maybe we can pull that up. I don't know. This seems to be new because I've not seen it before.
Yeah, hold on just a second.
I can also share if you want.
Yeah. Do you want to? You can share. I'll allow it.
Okay,
I'll
let's
allow
go.
it.
I would have just to bring it to my other monitor, but I have it here. Let me share.
Yeah.
Okay, so that should work. Yeah. So here, this is this is a website, right? They have revamped the whole website, and also they have apparently taken down the fees according to Living Aloha. So this 100 euro per user fee and stuff like that, all that is gone. What was creating a little bit of FUD that they wouldn't be able to bring new users onto the VeVeverse because they would have to pay too much. And here on the bottom, we see what other businesses say about us, or what other businesses are saying. And here we have Daniel Crothers, co-founder of VeVe. In our effort to develop a metaverse tailored for the VeVe community, we explored numerous platforms. Cavernous emerged as the definitive choice. Its simplicity and extensibility provided the ability to get started quickly while still delivering the capabilities that our community expects. So seems like a done deal, right? I
Well,
mean,
so my understanding, like, I thought that they've been working with Cavernous for a long time. Like that's who's been building the VeVe-verse for them.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I say so they have rebuilt this website apparently. So that is what everyone is talking about. I've not checked the website every day. I've also not checked on the Wayback Machine how the website looked or what the content was. But apparently the reason is that this comment is new. It was not known to me before, at least. And that Cavernous has rebuilt the website here to this instantly add multi-user collaboration to any project, Unity, Unreal. We knew that, right? So yeah, I don't know. I'm not an expert in building metaverses, to be honest. So
Yeah, but what this does, and this was some of the other things too, right? When I talk about narratives, and one of the reasons that I think that VeVe and OMI could still do great is because of this metaverse AR VR narrative that I think is going to be hitting. I've seen some reviews and of the Apple Vision Pro, and everyone has said it is like mind blowing. Like they are tripping out on it. The one thing that they complain about is like the weight of the headset itself. And I've seen some epic memes already of, of that. Oh yeah, you got to look at some of the memes. Just look at anyone who's put out content and they're complaining about
okay.
the weight of it. And like it is, I was dying. The internet is so amazing. But with the AR VR capabilities, right? Like, and that's one thing that I kind of talked about. I'm really excited if Cavernous is truly ready to go when the Apple Vision Pro releases and they have that app and we can then access the VeVe-verse. I think sentiment will drastically change off the bat. If they don't have the app immediately, I think that they have missed out on a substantial opportunity there, right? To really get out in front of so many people because there's not going to be a ton of apps initially, right? There's probably going to be a lot, but like there's obviously going to be a lot more 6 months from now. So if they can get in early, then they're going to get a lot more exposure because there's less apps for people to try out. So I really hope that VeVe has worked something out with Cavernous or that they themselves have it. That would be pretty substantial.
Yeah, I think Cavernous should have it if they position themselves like this. But if VeVe uses it directly, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would be. My assumption is they are absolutely working with Cavernous to make the VeVe-verse accessible. That's the best avenue. I think that's where they've been going the whole time, right? Is the AR VR experience. So it just makes sense. That is an assumption of mine. I could be wrong, but I'm fairly confident that that's what they're working towards there.
Based on past performance, I would say you're wrong, but we will see.
Wait, so past performance, like you don't think that they are working towards that at all?
I don't know. I don't know if they. So my trust in their at least perception of their capabilities lets me doubt that they are ready when this comes out. Maybe they are working towards this.
Oh,
but
I don't think that VeVe is necessarily ready, like with their app integrated. David kind of talked about that already. David said that he didn't think that the VeVe app was going to be integrated, but if Cavernous is ready, then they might have to like the VeVe-verse, and it might only be the users or that small group still waiting for more users there. But anyways, I agree.
So
I don't think that it's going to be ready when the Apple Vision Pro releases. And if
I'm
that
trying
was the case,
to manage my expectations because
yeah,
I'm getting excited when I see this stuff, when I only see that the stuff on such a website and the possibilities that they have with all their strong case. What I think I when I look at the VeVe app, I miss some very, very basic things that I would love to. Maybe it's only me, right? But I'm going to tell you one thing that I would love to see, and I think it would be so easy to implement, is just that when you hit a drop, that you get an animation, an excitement, a sound, something that sticks in your brain. It's like I always say that, like a sound like the level up at World of Warcraft, right? You're grinding your experience and boom, you're level up. And then you get the number, like next level. And then I don't know what, a new capability flying in. that all trains your brain to want that stimulus again,
The
right?
dopamine hit for sure, right? Yeah.
It's like what Facebook designed when you pushed down back in the days that everyone talked about is like like a lottery machine. They designed it like a lottery machine to push down and charge or get new notifications, and it would stimulate in brains like what's next, and it would load like for half a second or so, and that so back to VeVe, it would be what I would want to see is you already have the wait list, so you don't have this hitting the button and then this event, right? So you need to create this event with a simple animation. So you get this instead of the green thing, you get this golden like the golden sparkles flying and the massive sound and stuff like that. This alone would be a game changer in my opinion, because people would just want to see that hit, right?
So I talked about that too. When I was at NFT NYC last year, I ran into Steph Sudo, and she's an ambassador, right? And she's higher than just an ambassador, but for Cryptoys. And she just like randomly was like, "Hey, can I talk to you about this? You know, do you know much about NFTs?" And we're chatting, and I told her about VeVe, and it was funny because she was like, "Oh, we love VeVe, and there's a lot of things that we're trying to um, do like VeVe." And so you know, she had me like she sent me. I mean, I did the animation, I did the drop, and I got a He-Man. It was funny because she's like, "Oh, do you remember He-Man?" I'm like, "Yeah, like that's really nostalgic for me." And so she showed me all the different characters. She's like, "Which one? You know, this is a blind box." And I was like, "I love a He-Man." Got a He-Man, and I told her right off the bat. I just said that animation of opening the box was awesome. You nailed that. Like, and I've constantly said that VeVe, that is something that VeVe should absolutely do. It adds to that experience. Now, Cryptoys, they worked it with each brand where there's a different type of opening, there's a different background type thing, right? With He-Man, there's like Castle Grayskull in the background, and with Mickey Mouse, you know, like there's different backgrounds there.
Yeah.
VeVe could do that, and I agree. And even if it's just right now a simple animation of the green truck being like driving around the screen, or like, you know, and then it kind of like parks and does this thing, and then boom, that's what you get, and there's noise. Even something like that, until they can do more IP specific type things, I agree that there's a lot that VeVe could still do to update the app. I'll say this, David, you did talk about this year, one of their big focuses was a revamp, right, of things. I'm expecting a revamp of the app and the web app to where we will probably get, hopefully, these things, or at least other type of mechanisms in this app that we don't have to date, and then it's going to look a lot fresher.
I hope that revamp is not only some colored bars, but really a lot of new stuff, because then I would understand where all the workforce went. They revamped the OMI utility program, and I didn't like it. So I hope there is more to come. Yeah, more to come that gets me excited. And simple stuff like that would get me excited. What I also would wish for example, I said this many times on Around the Comiverse, is just like, if someone hits a 40 to 49 mint or something super scarce, that I just get a pop-up while I'm in the app. Something like, so because I want, so bam, this number just hit the market, or this was just minted, right? So that everyone knows. Yeah.
I agree. That's what's so cool about a really passionate community is it's incredible the amount of ingenuity and ideas that can come out that can really make things like so much better, right? And they've got a lot to work on there. But so speaking of drops, right, in this thing, what do you think of the most recent announcements of some of these drops? The Batman Who Laughs, and I want to talk to you about. I want to get your thoughts on crafting so far. So yeah, let's tell me about what you think about the upcoming drops, and then we'll go into crafting.
So maybe first the Matt Gondek of this abomination of a Homer Simpson that is. I'm personally not a fan of the art, but doesn't matter because there are a lot.
How dare you? Love Matt Gondak.
But there are, yeah, exactly. So there are fans. You are a fan. I'm not, but
I'm a
that's
fan.
not the point. I'm happy that his art is on the app because I see a lot of people are excited about this. So I'm very happy if there are different communities living on the app. So that first of all gets me bullish. But the drop has something special, and that is that the secret rare is super scarce, and in comparison to the other collectible that you can get. And as far as I have seen, it comes with a at least I think I don't know if it's a secret rare that comes with the utility you get to get a physical, but I think so. Or is it every of these? I'm not quite sure, but I think it's only the secret rare, right?
It's
And
secret rare.
and among the things that you get physical, there's another special one that is inside of the 16, basically, that you can get because the other ones are held back by VeVe. I like the concept because if you are, so for example, if that was something that I was excited about, I would participate for sure because 888, that's fine, right? In edition sizes, maybe a little bit too much even for such a small community of art collectors. But having something so rare, if you hit it, it's jackpot, right? That is, I like the idea. And I would love to see it also on one or the other comic that in the real world maybe doesn't have too much of a value, like $100 comic or so, but in the app then would be the common is already scarce, but the secret rare is like we saw it one time. We saw that in the app when we had a secret rare. There's only, what was that, like only seven of those, or that
Is that
the
the
with the black
Spider-Man with the black suit? Yeah.
252, I think, episode 252.
Yes. Yep. You're right.
Yeah. And so something like that. If I mean, everyone was pissed because everyone thought they could collect all the ASMs. Little did they know, or did we know at this time, that they will bring each and every comic to the app over the time, probably. So yeah, and there are over 800 Spider-Mans, I think, of the ASM series. So yeah.
Yeah. That's so the Matt Gondak drop. I'm really excited for, and so for people who don't know, there's going to be 888 editions. But only 20 of those are secret rares. So in comparison to how many, because we've seen 888, but normally there's like 4 variants, right? And even then the secret rare still has like 100 or around there. So this is extremely rare. And then on top of that, VeVe's keeping 4 back. Now, I've heard a lot of people really complaining that they're like 4 is too much. That's 1/5 the supply or 20%. And I'm like, look, VeVe is probably keeping 2, and Matt Gondak is probably keeping 2, right? Or Matt Gondak maybe keeping 3, and VeVe only gets 1. That is the downside to an extremely low mint collectible, right? Is that VeVe is going to also keep some. So, but there's 16, and those are hand embellished, right? So, because here's something interesting, because I do follow Matt Gondak, and he had done a drop of this. Homer Simpson Godzilla, and I had missed it. I don't remember what the price point was on his site, but I think it was like anywhere from $250 to $400 for this toy, right? And I think that there was maybe 500, 400, something like that. And so I was like, this kind of seems odd to me. Like, is this? I feel like maybe did you not sell them all out?
Yeah.
And so you're just taking some of these, but then I was like, but I love that. So the 16 are all hand embellished. But then one of them, there's like three different colorways painted on it of the hand embellishment. So that's like the difference there. But man, like if I get it, like I'm definitely keeping it, and I'm sure that but for the people who don't want it and they land that, like you said, it's going to be an excellent flip. And that's the thing, right? Is these type of drops, these are great because I think that everyone in general, even if I just get the non-secret rare, I'm stoked, man. I do like his art. I'm not an art person, and I kind of made a post about that. But his failure of Control Piece actually came at a time where I felt like it like spoke to me, like where I was just like, man, I feel like I just don't have control of a lot of things. And that art piece came out, and I just continued to look at it. And I was like, I love this. And so it just drew me to Mad Gondek. I've collected all of his stuff. So awesome thing. So what do you think about now let's talk about crafting a little bit, because you have the Batman Who Laughs, which we already have FA Batman Who Laughs, right? But now this is the I think it's Michael, I'm trying to remember the artist, Capullo or something like that. I don't know how you maybe I'm saying that wrong, but he had done that physical piece, and it's the Batman Who Laughs with the 3 wild robins, right? Like the demon robins with chains.
Exactly.
But now you have like the Batman Who Laughs, and then you have the 3 separate robins, and then you can craft them to then get the base, just like the statue. But it's not completely like the statue because the chains aren't there, right? Like there is on the statue. So I don't know. I'd like to know your thoughts on that. And then I'm going to pull this up because I think that there was something where when you're crafting, you still are paying to get the base. Let me check on that for sure.
Oh yeah, this is a mechanic I really didn't like on VeVe at all. When I saw this also for the venomizing thing, which by the way we didn't get any, I think, further drop right on for venomizing. I think we only got the 1 mighty, right?
Well, there's Beast and Storm, and then we got I'd have to look.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. The only thing is that what I don't like is if you already buy the stuff and you craft the stuff, I think in the end, when you craft the final piece, you shouldn't have to pay for it anymore. Because I was really excited about the idea with the Marvel Mighties, and then you can venomize them, and in the end you can craft the Carnage. But I think the Carnage in the end should be the reward for having bought all that stuff together and crafting, and not your reward is pay another 50 gems, right? That should not be the reward. It creates somewhat of a dilution. I like the initial concept more of you burn everything, and that's your decision, right? You either keep the stuff or you burn everything and create something new. I like that rather than you keep everything and then you pay and create something more. Because that's just another form of buying stuff from the store, in my opinion.
Yeah. And so I misspoke. So it doesn't cost you anything to craft the base, the emblem, Dark Knight's metal. But and maybe I was thinking about that. And I completely agree, man. I'm like, I feel like that's extracting too much from the customer. Now, if there was burns that took place when you did that and it made everything more scarce, right? Then there would be less people who would want to craft, making the people who did craft get more value for that, right? And then the people who still didn't want to craft, like there's less of those that they're holding, so like that's what really adds value to that. So I agree though. Because of that, I was like, I'm personally not. I'm going to collect the Mighties and I'm going to collect the Venomized Mighties, but then I'm not going to like, I'm not paying for the Venom or the Symbiote to then do the craft and then paying for the Venom or the Carnage. I'm just going to buy on the secondary market because historically these crafts, the actual cost of building up to do the craft is a lot more than actually just purchasing the final crafted item from the secondary market like a month later. You know? And I think that's because of that. That speaks to the mechanism that it's not working, right? It's not creating enough scarcity of these things to retain their value. So, and the other thing that I don't like too with these crafting things is, man, I think it was Omicron who came up with this awesome idea of basically saying, you set a time frame, right, of crafting. So for like the desk, right, the writer's animated desk and the pencils, people are saying, I select this. And once they select, they're saying, I cannot take that back, right? They're committed. It gets locked in. And so after the certain deadline, then VeVe looks back and says, okay, out of the 2,000 desks that could have been crafted, 1,000 were crafted. Now we're going to take 41 through 1,041 and randomize those and give them to people. Instead of taking from the full 41 to 2,000 and randomizing it, you can have mint number 41 that never gets minted in that process. And that's wild to me.
I think that's though an interesting part of the game that mint number 41 could not exist for some collectibles. I mean that's fine for me.
How
But
dare you?
because if they at some point drop the other mint numbers, number 41 for some collectibles will be just one number in the top 50, right? So it could happen. At some collectibles they are holding back more than 100 editions or 90 editions. So there can be a lot of mints in there that are all the beyond 41, or for the comics I think it's beyond 168 or so at the current sizes. There are a lot of mints that they could, via giveaways or via other perks, drop into the market at some point. I think we saw that from time to time that they did that, because if you don't do that, then you also don't have to withhold them if you don't bring them in circulation at some point. I would like to see a couple of things that they do. For example, I would randomly launch a drop where a normal comic drop, maybe, where every mint is available from number 1. Just agree with Marvel that from this version, no one holds anything back, nor VeVe nor Marvel. It's just for the collectors, for everyone. Make it for my sake, a special VeVe Marvel cooperation where there's a new comic, only digital, only launched, and number 1 is technically achievable on drop. So first of all, that thing will sell out even if it's 20,000 editions. Secondly, it will create excitement that everyone can have it and there's nothing to dilute. And then a second mechanic that I would like to see for VeVe is a hidden burn timer on some of the drops, or maybe all of the drops, that could have different lengths. So what I would like to see is that, completely unannounced, there is a drop where only 2,000 of the 6,000 get sold out, and only 1 hour after it goes on burn. And it's like, okay, too bad, you didn't buy it, it's gone from the store, but you would not know when. So everyone who thinks about buying, it's not like, okay, I buy it from secondary because people are slowly diluting. No, you don't know. So people will buy more because they don't know when it's gone, and they have seen already that this drop where only 2,000 editions exist is now a drop where there's only 12 secret rares minted and they are worth 4,000 gems, right? So people would come back into the game of, I think that's worth buying, because not everyone will buy it, then it gets burned immediately or after 5 hours or after 4 days. So that would be something that I would like to see.
Yeah, I mean, that's an extremely interesting concept. And here's where I'm going to put my feet in the shoes of VeVe, right? And I think that David, from the get-go, they in the VeVe verse, they want to have the VeVe museum where they have the mint number 1 of everything, right? Like, but well, until he can buy it, right? And he's offered that. So like, but even then, right? He still wants that, and for whatever reason, in that. So the more they do that, then the more VeVe would be having, or David, you or whoever would be having to pay. But I don't disagree. Okay, I love the idea. Let me put that out there, right? Yeah. I'm just putting myself. Will it happen? Probably not with mint number 1, but maybe like mint number 2, or I don't know if there's an agreement where like David / VeVe gets mint number 1 and Dan gets number 2, and that's like always the thing. I don't know, or Marvel, I don't know. But I agree, and I love that mechanism of the randomly just stopping the mint without telling, and then they burn everything else. And in tandem with that, here's the other thing. Randomly, and I asked David this on the interview, I just said, has Disney, Rain asked it, has Disney thought about doing retroactive airdrops for holding different sets? Because the whole thing about announcing, first and foremost, like they're not getting as much money honestly as I think they could the other way, because what happens is if they just randomly announce an airdrop, right? So Candy Digital has done this. They're like, oh, by the way, like you've held this, boom, these airdrops, and like community's stoked on that. They're like, oh my gosh, and I can't even sell some of the things, but it was like, hey, you helped vote for the first comic, right, of the Bad Cows, and you help vote for the second one. I get these little medallions for that. Those type of things are awesome. Like, hey, you get a medal but even making these medals, if they want to sell them, but airdropping a medal and saying, "Hey, I was one of the first ones to hold this mint," or like the whole set of golden moments, right? And you get airdropped this medal for doing that. But when you don't announce things like that and you just retroactively do it, then people are like, "I've got to hold these sets because I might get this," right? And so then more people are holding because of that. And there's that speculation, and that's part of the fun. That's part of the fun of collecting, is the speculation. And sometimes, like, I mean, I wrecked myself. I thought, this is a funny story. I don't even know if you remember this, but the James Bond drops in December of like 21. They're doing a drop like near the end of December. And there was a glitch in the app in which instead of 6 of 6, it said you hold 6 of 7. And I was like, oh, they're going to airdrop something, right? And so I was all super pumped. And then it was just like a glitch. But I had bought more because I thought potentially that could happen. And I had no one to blame but myself for that, because it was still speculation on that. But I think that type of excitement of not knowing, right? Then people are just like, I am going to buy more of this because who knows? And when the burn happens, or when an airdrop happens, because so many people didn't collect the sets, it's more scarce of whatever that item is. So they're missing out on a lot of money that could be traded hands when people are like, I didn't get that, but I want to buy it from the secondary market. It's wild to me.
I think what you said, that the airdrop is technically, they could just implement a system where you get achievements for doing certain things. So for example, I like, because you can already see from my several World of Warcraft references that I played that game a lot. Like, I played so hard from 2004 until I don't know when, like I think I played over 10 years or so. Not quite, but 8 years. So I think if a game makes 14 million people addicted with the things that it has, and you take the things that most people are still talking about today, and even went back to play like the old version again. So they brought the old version out once again. I don't know if you saw this.
I did not know that.
So they brought new servers after 20 years or so, like the vanilla servers, and they were swarmed with people that wanted to have the same feeling again, like back in those days, like hundreds of thousands of people flooding these servers. So I think, why not copy some things that they did right? Obviously not one-to-one, because it's not a game, but don't forget to like. You need to smash the likes right now for World of Warcraft references. But what everyone is like, there are things that are super rare that you could get, and it was a lot of effort to craft them, to get them, and if you had them, you were the king on the server, right? And I think VeVe is moving with this Matt Gondek thing in the correct direction, because there need to be collectibles besides artist proof that are launching on the everyone can get them, but if you hit them, it's like legendary. It's that super rare thing, right? And I think at the Lamborghini, they did a good job on this, because it's a 70 gem drop, but the secret, and it sold out the secret rare. So I think the edition sizes were great. And I think they are finding out about this right now with these super scarce secret rares. This is one thing. And then, as you said, the achievements would be another thing, because people that are collectors. So collecting and organizing things is very close together. And collecting and organizing is, for many people, a way to get control over a part of their life, whereas rest of the life is highly uncontrollable. So everyone that is a collector and that tries to organize this part of their life is also seeking for completionism. And if you give them something that combines this collecting journey together with achievements, where you can complete tasks, things, and have a dopamine pump because of that, usually works, in my opinion. So it would be like, you don't have that achievement if you didn't craft the Disney desk. So yes, you can decide to keep all the pens, but if you craft the Disney desk, you get the badge. And if this time of crafting is over, you're the only one that has this virtual badge. Nothing to sell, nothing that ever will give money, but it will give you this reputation. If someone inspects your profile and you have all these, back in the days, badges of Disney stole a sub 41 mint from me because I've wrongly minted this Dumbo picture or so, right? If you would have a bet for that, you would be the king on VeVe
Think
without.
about that. That is brilliant. If they're like, we feel so bad, right? And give that, and then they get a special badge like that. Like, I was the guy, right? That was me.
That was me.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So I would love to see that. And I would go for that. I would go for that more than only for MCP points. MCP points will be cool because you can use them, but I think there needs to be an achievement system like that.
Yeah, and I agree. Like, on top of like the ranking that you get, right, which is kind of like an achievement type thing, but specific badges, I agree, right? Like, if you got the badge, and they do have some like OG badges in Discord, but if you got like airdropped a badge, like you said, that you couldn't even sell, and it was like you bought the Todd off of the store, right? Like, anyone who bought that, like, bam, like, you got that badge or something like that. Like, those are flexes. And yeah, or you completed this set. Like, that's brilliant. And that's something that I don't think would cost a lot to develop and then just airdrop that. But the engagement you get from the people who are like, oh, like, I need to get the badge for collecting every Disney set. I need that badge, right? Definitely. Yeah, here we go. Like, it's bragging rights. Look,
it's a flex. It's another form of flexing.
Yeah, the whole point of people spending insane amounts on things like $5 million for a comic book, right?
Yeah,
is because they can say, I spent $5 million on a comic book.
Yeah.
Like, I have that, like, that's the social flex, right? On just showing that, and they love that. That's a Veblen good, and it gets down to, like, there's so many different layers of collecting, and one of them is that within the collector space, right? It's just like, you have one of those rare comics, right? Like, that's a social flex. You were able to buy that, but there's other flexes of like, oh, yes, I have this, but guess what? I bought it from the stand.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't buy it off the market. I bought it from the stand. And if you can prove that provenance, right? Those type of things, that is like next level OG, and like the respect, that you get. And that's where these badges could absolutely come into play. So I love it. I hope VeVe is listening to this. Patient Hodler, you're spitting out some epic ideas. I've loved it. So I want to get into OMI. There's people have talked a lot about OMI. There's been I did a whole video kind of on it. Apparently, so you had Ron on last stream, and someone was saying that, like, he had not talked kindly necessarily about OMI or his thoughts on what OMI could do. I don't know. So let me know your thoughts right now on OMI and what you think that it can do in this bull run, if you think it can do anything.
So first of all, Ron was on my channel. People may have perceived it that way, but he's a very analytic guy, and he doesn't talk things that are meant to harm or talk it down. He was just commenting that for him, Ecomi is not the hold, and also that he doesn't agree with, for example, certain price targets that you guys discussed on Ecomiverse. But I think that's fair to say. I also don't agree with these price targets. But to my opinion. So we saw that Ecomi is basically back to the level where it was where it is since 1.5 years. It can't go down because apparently there are big buy orders sitting. It also cannot go up because there are big sell orders sitting. So it seems that whales try to lock in the price in a trading range or in something where they can benefit off of these moves. This is the first thing. What do I think? There's only one way to break out, and that is if something that really impacts the narrative comes out from Ecomi and VeVe right now for the token. The soft staking implementation is fine, but that was in August. We have that, and the implementation of bronze tickets is not, or bronze tickets and MCP points, that is not tangible for people because they cannot even see the tickets. And it is not the bronze tickets that were promised initially. It is like I say, it's the filthy, ugly cousin of the bronze tickets, right now, because the initial idea was that you can buy them with OMI and then some OMI gets burned. And now it's only you soft stake your OMI and you get the tickets like you get the points. So it's another form of, basically, if we're honest, we are moving Ecomi to the app and create another currency with it that we can then spend. That's the MCP points. And then we create another currency that we can use to craft or stuff like that, which is the tickets, but they are created by the same mechanism. And the first of them, I don't even need OMI for, because I also have a ton of MCP points without staking OMI, and I will be able to use them regardless. So in the end, in my opinion, it's very simple right now. There's only 3 things that can happen that impact Ecomi in a way that Ecomi can find the way back into the bull run. OMI to NFT directly without an intermediary. Some mechanic, whatever that is, that makes OMI deflationary. In reality, not in theory, in reality. So really starts burns that you can calculate in the future that reduces the circulating supply and basically forces everyone to take part in that mechanic, like the initial OMI utility program was designed.
You can't force them to. That it becomes a security. You can't make. You can give them the choice, and they can have the choice to do that.
Yeah, I mean force. But if you want to participate in certain things, then you have to accept that happens.
That they can't do that. Well, anyways, we can get into.
It can get deflationary by
scenarios. They can still do deflationary things, right? And say, hey, if you would like to do this, you can do it, and by doing it, it does burn the token, and it's your choice. But if they create something where it's like, hey, everyone has to do this, and you have to use your OMI for it, and it's
no, that's not what I meant. I meant when, like the initial proposal, you move it to your wallet and you use it for certain things. For example, a staking that has, like they proposed in the beginning, breakage fees, fast track fees, stuff like that, right? You can choose to do that. You can let it sit there, but you can fast track and burn. That's your choice in your wallet. So I liked that idea, and that was a very nice base case to calculate how much could have been burned. And the third thing is exchanges, and I really would suggest to the Ecomi and VeVe team, go to the exchanges, pay whatever that price is, and get it listed on some of those things that it gets a little bit more of volume and exposure. I think it cannot be that hard, and I really don't understand why this isn't the case, because every shitcoin gets that done for their project to pump it. And yes, I know they said we don't want to pump it, but please, you got all your users in the bull run through Ecomi, basically. Everyone out there is a true collector from Web3 that found Ecomi first, if you do the polls, right? But that's my take on Ecomi. Sorry for taking up like 5 minutes for that.
No, I like it, man. That's why you're on here. I like your point of view, and there's definitely been times where we vary in our thoughts on it, right? And so here's my question for you then. What's the range that you think? Let's say that these things all happen that you've brought up, right? That we do get exchanges, that there is a burn mechanism, and shoot, what was that first one?
The OMI to
NFT. OMI to NFT, right? So let's say that all of that happens. What do you think the OMI could get to, the range?
Okay, so if all of that happens, and what exchanges are we talking about? Like some KuCoin and Kraken, or are we talking about Coinbase?
Let's say KuCoin and Binance.
Okay, so Coinbase would be absolute maximum right now, because
I
they
agree.
are So okay, so the moment that you probably, if that would happen, what happens first is OMI to NFT and subsequently the burns, in some way, right? So it's difficult to calculate, because the moment that you have burns in it, the variable of the burns is like, do we have high burns or low burns? What is the nature of the burns? So I would say, let's say we only get OMI to NFT and exchanges without burns. Then I would think that $20 billion market cap would be possible with those exchanges.
Well, so let's say, so you know what? I should have just done bull case scenario. They get all of them, right? What is your top bull? They've got Coinbase, they got everything. They've got the burns going. They've got OMI NFT. They've got the VeVe out, and you can use it in the Apple Vision Pro.
Yeah, I mean, then maybe 50, 60 billion would be possible, maybe. If that all comes, right? That all comes before the end of 2024, basically.
Yeah.
Or during that bull run, right? So then maybe that is possible. But I try to think from a market cap that we have right now is 180 million, 160 million. So considering that very more likely than not, the entire altcoin space basically gets an inflow that rips the average of all altcoins, the others chart up for like 10x. That would put an OMI without anything besides that the narrative comes back to a $1.8 billion market cap, and the rest of the market, it would still be at the same position where it is right now, outside of the top 200. Yeah.
So you think with all of that stuff, that OMI would still sit outside the top 200 coins?
No, with all of that stuff, not. But my reasoning is, let's say we don't get all of this and we go with the current development and we get some medium to small exchanges maybe to satisfy the narrative, then at the maximum, I would see it at 1.6 billion, like a 10x from here.
Gotcha.
But if we get more, because we have to think now, people would say, oh, Patient Hodler said it can go to 60 billion. If we really consider all of that, it's like on the Apple Vision Pro, the VeVeverse is a banger. OMI is integrated. You can buy every collectible with it. It gets deflationary somehow, and it's on all of the exchanges, including Coinbase. Then yes, then it would be one of the strongest narratives that you can have out there, because you're buying premium licensed collectibles with a deflationary coin that is available on all exchanges, and those licensed collectibles are in virtual reality. That would bring us back to what everyone assumed in 2021. And yes, then I would see 50, 60 billion, something like that, right? Why? Because that's more or less what a big community, which we would then have, also did with the Dogecoin. I think Dogecoin reached that thing in the last bull run.
Yeah. So here's why I think. So I want to point it out, and I think that people get ahead of themselves. Like, obviously, there's all these memes, and people were calling out Rain when he had said like a $200 billion market cap, and like, skulls, and what does he know? And first of all, that was like the extreme bull case scenario, and that's what I gave you, right? So Rain said, it could go to 200 billion, and you're saying 60 billion in the extreme bull case scenario.
Yeah.
So 60 billion, right? What does that put OMI at, like 20 cents? I think if there was no burns, right?
Yeah,
something like that. Extreme bull case, and then $200 billion market cap would put it at like 75 cents, 66 cents. Around 66 cents, something like that. So a 3x from where you are, a little over a 3x from that. But the one thing that I'll just point out, and I think that, well, two things. I do put a lot of stock and weight onto someone who has made millions with these type of plays, right? So like when he sits there and says that, I'm like, look, it might sound outlandish, but honestly, like, the guy's made millions off of these calls. Right, he was the one who was buying Cardano when everyone was fighting the crap out of Cardano and said it was dying and it was dead. It was a dead token. Everything that people have said about OMI, 100-fold on Cardano, right? And all he did was just put in, 5 figures, 6 figures, like just laying it out on Cardano, man, on those type of things. And it was like a longer term play before it ended up happening. And so when he says in a bull run, like, things happen that should never happen. So like when you're, the thing is, I think that you're pointing that out and you're still playing like logic, like logically, yep, like logically it could go to 60 billion and that makes sense. And Rain is like, you know what? In a crazy bull case scenario, sometimes things don't make sense. So I could see to where it could get that, but like to 200 billion, but that doesn't mean it's going to, or that he thinks it's going to, right? And I want to put that in perspective. And so like, it's interesting, like the different trading scenarios, you know, like Ron is analytical and he does things. I do like Rain's take on things where he does have, I mean, he works with Paul from Definity, who's been doing technical analysis for like 20 years. He works with very, very, very high net worth individuals, talking to them about different stocks and all of that stuff, right? So like his technical analysis is like highly, highly sought after in the industry. And is an expert at that. And so Rain talks to him about these different tokens, but then Rain adds that fundamental analysis and combines those two, right? And so I like the different perspectives. I'll just say this: there are very few traders out there that become millionaires, and there's a reason for it. It's very, very difficult. I would say in a pre-bull run and into the beginning of the bull run, everyone's a genius.
Yeah.
People randomly picking coins at low market caps, and they pop like a 5x or 6x.
But
and they sound like they're a genius.
That's
but
not
it
the
doesn't
time.
last. It doesn't last.
Yeah, it's not the time right now though. So right now, not every coin is performing good. In the parabolic phase, yes, then you pick a random coin and it does well. But right now, I think, for example, someone like Ron has exceptionally good picks. If you consider the whole talent,
I don't
right?
want to like. I'm not in his Telegram group. Like I'm not disagreeing with that. He definitely could. But I would say this in the pre-bull run, and this is, I guess, just like my experience. Coming into the end of the last bull run, right? There were some Telegram groups and things of traders that had done well, but they had done well in the beginning and they had made those picks, right? Which is why their Telegram groups had become so large. And by the end of the bull run, those groups were just chaos because everyone was pissed because they were losing all that money from the same analysis that had been performing well in the bull run and the pre-bull run no longer worked, right? Because people become irrational and that stuff happens. So that's where I kind of lend credence, and like I love to hear that Ron's group is crushing it. Phenomenal. Like, and I'm not saying that anyone shouldn't do that. I've listened to Ron talk. Like he's a smart guy, you know, and he doesn't agree with Rain's like potential prediction. Like that's great, right? Like he's made some great trades. He's made some great calls. I'm not taking away from that. I'm just pointing out the experience that I have yet to see a trading Telegram group at the end of a bull run that's actually made it long term. And so that's my hesitation.
I think you are right.
Telegram trading, where all they're doing is technical analysis type stuff, is long term or like near that. When the bull run starts its downturn, all of that technical analysis really drops. And that's why I say most traders are not millionaires, because it's not easy.
Yeah. And that I don't know how much net worth Rain has, and I 100% agree with you. I always listen to what Rain says. I also watch his videos from time to time, and the success gives him right. And I would tell everyone, rather listen to Rain than to me, because I cannot show the same result. And that is something that I would always say. You are more successful than me, so I can learn from you. Regardless, I would challenge his view, because I think that as in crypto, past performance does not necessarily lead to the same results.
Yeah.
And I would also have to consider that he is in a lot of projects, and he might exceptionally multiply his net worth with everything but OMI. This can happen, right?
Yeah.
So it can happen that he will in the end say, look, I'm a multimillionaire. Or he is already probably, but he will maybe say, hey, I 100x my net worth, but I'm down in the end with OMI, or I only did a 2x on OMI, right? So this can also happen. And my reasoning is,
I agree.
If we talk, it's just really, and I have to put this into perspective. it is really hard for me to imagine this bull case that you put out, and it's really hard for me to imagine 60 billion, because I saw what was necessary besides good fundamentals for a Dogecoin to hit that. It was necessary that one of the most influential persons in social media tweeted about it, which was Elon Musk, right? And so do we get stuff like that? Maybe that can accelerate it also. But 200 billion, that is a sum of money that we do not see after 1 week in 11 spot Bitcoin ETFs. We are far from that. So the entire, that money that has to flow into this coin is so much more, is 100x from top 200 coins right now. So I would challenge it. The only thing that I see 200 billion is that we get hyperinflation and the loaf of bread costs $1,000 at the store. So yeah.
See, but this is where I think that it, and I love this debate, right? And let me pull back. I want to apologize if anyone's thinking that I am. I just don't agree with Ron's take on where, like, certain things with OMI. But like, look, if Ron's been printing before the bull run, like, that's awesome. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to take away from that. Right? Like I said, I think Ron is a smart guy. I'm just speaking from my experience that I saw a lot of people wrecked in Telegram groups with really smart traders that had made good money. And I think it works until it doesn't. And so for me, I do like the play of the fundamental with the technical to a certain extent. But so I just want to point something out, right? So the $200 billion case, which is really only like a 3x from your case, a loaf of bread's got to be $1,000. So in your case, then loaf of bread better be $300. You know, and that's where, like, there's this disconnect where people feel comfortable with one number but not the other. But I'll say this. One thing that people don't understand is, like, a $200 billion market cap. That doesn't mean that people have to be wanting to put that much money in. It can mean that people don't want to sell the token that hold it, because there is a utility there. And that's what we really, truly haven't seen this play out. And so this is where I think that highly improbable, right? I want to put that out there. A $200 billion market cap is, like, extremely highly improbable. Can we clip that, right? Yep. Highly improbable. But what we really haven't seen is a token that's not like a layer one. We've kind of seen it with, like, Chili's and with So Rare, right? Where that utility is there and people want that token for the utility of it. And I just am very fascinated to see how it plays out with OMI, if those things come to pass, right? Because we were talking with Sanjay, and Sanjay is like, look, I don't want to buy the token right now, but you give me a token that gives me a discount on purchasing NFTs or something like that, and I'll freaking buy the token. I'll buy the token, and I want the token, and I'm fine paying a higher premium on that token to do that. Why? Because it's still going to give me a discount on this. There's going to be those utilities there. So anyways, I feel like we kind of beat this, like, horse dead 3 times over, but, like, I like this different perspective, right? And I'm not saying that it's there, but, like, when people attack that point of view, all I'm going to say is, I'm like, well, first of all, I would definitely love to see, like, your experience and your wins in the market to say, like, hey, your point of view or the way that you've been doing things in the past has also led you to success. And that doesn't take away, like, I'm not a millionaire from crypto either, right? Like, so, like, this is a great discussion, and we're all making these plays according to this. We're not financial advisors, right? But for me, this is what I see for OMI this year. I am highly confident, right? Not 100% guaranteed, but I'm highly confident that we get an exchange, multiple exchanges this year, at least an exchange. David already said in the interview that they have their applications out to multiple exchanges. So I think that that's happening this year. We're going to get some utility this year, right? The bronze ticket season actual utility where I can use my bronze tickets. I can use my MCP points that I got from OMI, right? But then I do expect OMI to NFT this year. I expect it this year. Now, I don't know if that's going to be third quarter, fourth quarter, or second quarter, but I do expect a lot of these And I'm going to say this, the team's not dumb in that they also understand everything that we're talking about, right? So when I talked to David and I was saying, hey, could you give people some hope on the token? Because the team doesn't talk about the token. He's like, whatever bag you're holding, I'm holding a larger bag. You had some people who were like, well, he didn't pay for that bag. And I was like, well, I feel like he paid for it through blood, sweat, and tears of building VeVe, just like Jeff Bezos did with Amazon and selling his stock. That's a whole nother argument. But anyways, they have a lot to gain from having the token have value, right? And to be able to sell that. So I think that there's incentive there for them to also make sure that the token does well in this bull run. So for me, that's what I am looking at. And I'm saying it's worth it to me to still buy OMI at these lows. Now, I am diversified and I'm not putting all of my money in OMI right now. There's other projects that I've done. And I talked about animal concerts. I talked about it. All this whole last summer I've been buying it. It was 000 like 1.5. And then it did this big pump in December, right? And I told people right before that pump, I was like, this high risk, high reward play with the NFT AR or ARVR play. And it did a 3.5x from when I talked about it there, right? So there are definitely plays to make there. And I would definitely say that OMI is going to be sitting in this range for a little while longer. And so there are other plays, right, of tokens that could pump. And the last thing I'll say about this, and we can transition, or if you have anything else to say, as typically right before the halving, right, there is kind of like a drop in the market. We're starting to see that right now, even with ETFs. Now, I thought there was a chance that because of the ETFs and the money that we wouldn't see this dip, but we're still seeing this dip. And so I do think that this dip will continue before the Bitcoin halving. And then historically, Bitcoin doesn't hit a new all-time high until 12 to 18 months after the halving. So something to think about there.
Yeah, so I also did not become a millionaire from the last market because the time in the market for me is not long enough. And that also tells me I have not seen everything, and I should listen to people like Rain, but also to other people, what experience they have made,
100%.
so that I can maneuver a little bit better. Regardless, it's important that I make my own mistakes and that I am exposed to the market, because just from theory, it was not enough for me to listen in the last bull run, for example, that someone said, look, it's going to go away. Everything. It's not enough someone telling you this. You need to see your gains go away and to have the worst thing happen, like that a couple of $100 of Terra Luna just evaporated from my portfolio. But I'm glad that happened, because you need to see this. You also need to, I think it is super valuable if you had money on exchanges and you saw another exchange that wasn't yours collapse, and to fear for your assets and to remove them from the exchange and to see that this threat to your assets was real, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm glad for all experiences that I made. One thing I will though say to my credit, that my assumption might have a little bit of weight. I was the one that was correct with the price prediction for the end of 2023 on around the Ecomiverse, where everyone else saw Ecomi at 0036 or something around that, or at least zero. So not going to brag too much. Clap on the shoulder.
No,
right?
Yeah, dude. Hey, look. I would always give credit is due. Absolutely. Yeah. So great call.
So yes, and also this is something that I feel I always tell people, hey, look, this is my view, this is my journey. The YouTube channel is not for, no title is this is how you get rich, right? No title is this how you get rich. Can you get rich? This is okay. You can phrase it that way. Can you get rich with this token? Potentially, right? But I cannot tell people how to get rich until I am rich, like Rain rich, right? Something like that. And I think that's important.
Yeah.
And now for the Ecomi, last sentence or last sentences, I personally don't see it from the perspective now, and I want to be positively surprised, but I don't see it go beyond like $10 billion market cap, to be honest. I will be glad if it hits 1.6 billion, which is a 10x from here.
Yeah.
I will be super glad if it hits my $10 billion I would say, relatively bullish thing. And yeah, I will be fine with that. I will be still not super positive, because I think almost every coin somewhere between top 100 and top 200 will do some kind of these returns. And then I have to ask myself, why did I hold on to this instead of another coin? But I will make my lesson there as well. So I don't see my own Super Bowl case. I don't see happen right now because of what the team's showing us.
And that is fair. And I think that two things I want to say. Well, three things. So number one, from what I've heard from people who are in Ron's trading group, definitely people have made good money. People have lost money too, right? And from what I like, he presents, or the group presents these informational charts, and then people get to make that decision. And I think that is extremely valuable to teach you about things as to like how to analyze certain projects. Like I think that there's a lot of value from what I've heard in a lot of the things that he's doing there. So I hope that, man, like I'm just like backtrack. I want to make sure that people don't think that I'm in any way like bad talking him at all, because
I don't think.
Okay.
Don't worry, man.
Okay,
don't
good.
Worry, man.
I just want to make that clear, right?
That like is the case.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
didn't think so, and no one in the chat said anything. So I think you don't have to worry about this.
All right, because there is value there, and I think that people can learn from that. So, and it all depends on what people want. And the other thing that I liked what you said, though, right? When I'm buying OMI, I'm not buying it thinking it. Even though highly improbable, it could go to 300 billion or 200 billion. So I'm buying because of that, right? Like I'm going to be selling on the way up. So like I'll have my moon bag and stuff, but like I'm definitely not going to be waiting, hoping that OMI hits these crazy high points, right? Like that would be crazy, like because it's highly improbable that it hits that. And so I like the point of you saying like, I think that there's a chance that it could do a 10x. Okay. For whoever you are, if you're looking at buying OMI, you yourself have to look and say, what do you think it could reasonably do? Not crazy bull case scenario, but like if the team doesn't hit a lot of stuff, and I think that it's reasonable to say historically they haven't. And so if you're basing it on past performance, is there a likelihood that they don't complete a lot of that? Yeah, I feel like that's a fair take. And so you've all got to do what you feel most comfortable with, right? But for me, when I see people sitting there saying OMI is a dead token, or they're dancing because Bitcoin went up and OMI didn't, all these other tokens pumped and OMI didn't, and they're like OMI's dead, and that's where it's like, well, that's just a lack of experience that they have there. If they're celebrating off of these small price movements, like I want to see longer term there. So, anyways, I feel like we touched on that topic ad nauseum, but I think it's important. I love the discussion, and as you can see from the chat, there's a lot of people who appreciate your perspective, and I do too, right? Let's see. I was just looking at.
I appreciate the counter perspective likewise, because I admire the conviction that Randy has. I admire the conviction that Rain has, and yours as well. However, sometimes the viewpoint goes to the other direction. In my case, for example, but we will see. It will be super interesting in the end for me to see, because I would rather be wrong, that's clear. And I would love to see Randy and Rain to succeed with their super big OMI bags, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And it will be an interesting analysis to see in the end what did it hit in the run.
Yeah, and that would be very telling, right? And for me, again, I am fairly diversified. So if OMI goes to zero, like I'm okay. And that's where I don't like the Randy stance of putting it all in one. I don't have that risk tolerance, man. Because
maybe he's okay. Maybe he's okay with that.
Randy is okay. And that's the thing, right? Like people sit there and attack him, and it's just like, why are you so angry that this is how he is and this is how he talks? If you don't like it, right, go find someone, either pick your own coins and do your thing, right? But like to personally attack, that's where I take offense. It's just like you can sit there and say, I don't agree with how you look at that, or I don't agree that risk stance. Like I don't, right? I need diversification, because I've been there where I had 3 or 4 coins and none of them were popping off, and Rain's texting me with all of the things that are popping off for him, and I'm just like the emotional toll that took on me, like to stop myself from just wanting to sell what I was in to get into something that was pumping. I don't want to be in that situation again. It's too much for me. So I like the diversification on that.
Yeah, it's not good if people are attacking other people over this. It's mostly people lash out when they are fearful, and Randy is this idol of super convicted, and then also this probably many people got caught by his excitement and then bought in, and now they're blaming maybe him for getting them in, but in the end it's like that. You cannot live in this space with a victim mentality, because otherwise it's, oh, Jamie Dimon flooded Bitcoin, I lost my leverage long. Dr. Staff said that the crafting event is cool, that's why I spent $100 on this I don't know what, like Matt Gondek thing. So you cannot live like that in this entire world. You cannot live like that, because if others are to blame for your own misery, that also means that you cannot do anything about your misery, and that would make you incapable of changing something about your own situation. And if you believe that, then you're truly lost. So I'd rather say I'm responsible for almost everything that happens to me, and then I can change most of what happens to me or what situation that I'm in, and I will get to it. And if I fail on my life's journey, so let's say I want to get rich with crypto and with my own business, and I don't know what, if I fail on that journey, at least if I am sitting in a wheelchair with gray hair next to the other old guys, I'm the guy with the good stories, So this time back in 2000 something, I tried to get rich by investing in these digital collectibles, and they all went to shit. And I founded a YouTube channel, and I got to know this guy called Dr. Stuff that will come to Germany and visit me, and we drink a beer.
That's right, man. This year.
Crazy stuff that happened to me. I lost it all, but who cares, right? Right now, who cares? End of life. I tell my stories. That is the worst that can happen to me from my perspective. Yeah,
I love that perspective. I love that point, because I say that all the time, right? I'm like, you got to put on your big boy pants, your big girl pants, right? Whatever, and just take ownership. And I learned that lesson too. I'll tell you a quick story. I've never shared this before, but like, I got in one of these venture capital groups, and there was a really big crypto influencer, right? And so here's the counter perspective real quick on what I said about Rain, right? He has made millions in crypto. Doesn't mean he's right on everything, right? There's this other influencer made millions in crypto, and he starts shilling the crap out of this NFT project, right? And I'm still fairly new, and I'm like, oh, dude, like I am in. This guy knows what he's talking about, right? So like I aped in a decent amount of funds. And this is when like gas for the freaking transaction to mint these NFTs was like $350 just to mint them, right? Like, and so I'm aping in, and that thing fell faster than like man, lead on a like high gravity like planet, man. Like I mean, it just like
shit.
Oh my gosh. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I initially was like, dude, what the heck, man? I thought this guy knew what he was talking about, right? Like that was my knee-jerk reaction. Like I was pissed at him. And then I took a second, right? And I took a step back, and I was like, I didn't do my due diligence, man. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I was like,
Yep.
I let the emotion override me. And I'm like, this guy knows what he's talking about. He's made millions. He's showing this thing. He must know, right? And so I did that. And that's why I say it is important with whatever things that prices we're talking about, right? You as an individual have to decide what you feel is most comfortable for yourself, because then you're the one who you're accountable for that. And do not sit there and let Randy or me or anyone talk you into something if you don't feel comfortable with it. Because you're the one making the decision. No one is forcing your hand there. So at the end of the day, if it fails, it's on you. If at the end of the day there can be a token that pumps crazy and then you don't sell, right? And then it goes all the way to zero, that's on you. Like all of that's on you, right? So just take ownership of that, and you're going to be so much more successful in general in crypto and in life if you have that mentality. So I love that.
Great story. That's a great story.
Here's a quick question. Someone had asked you, and I didn't
Yeah,
want to pass
if
it.
I would do a stream, yeah, Vitimon is that. I know Vitimon since a long, long time from my chat as well. Question for PhD. This is somehow his nickname for me. Will you be in France doing a live stream with the team? I will be in France, definitely. That's why I use this. But only the team can decide if I will be able to make a live stream with them, because I don't know if that fits in the scope of what they try to achieve there. I don't know if they would agree, but I will definitely ask them if I can. And yeah, then maybe they also don't want me to ask too painful questions to them. I don't know, because I would definitely not hesitate to ask the big burning questions, right? So we will see. I will try.
I like it. I love this. I love some of the banter here. Crazy Dan just saying, what did he miss? Omicron, everything.
Yep. But the good thing is it's still there to go back
It's
to
recorded.
the beginning.
It's recorded. You
Yep.
can go back and watch. Yeah, and there you go. Right. Hey, I appreciate that, Omicron. Love it if you guys and like could smash the like button, follow and subscribe. Also to Patient Hodler's channel if you haven't done that, and follow Patient Hodler on the YouTube. Patient Hodler, you got maybe 10 more minutes? Is that okay?
Yeah. I got 10 more minutes. That's not a problem. And Felipe asks if I will be in France to drink a beer with him. He just copied the same message and exchanged the live stream part. Yes, Felipe, I will.
I love it.
Let me pay that beer for Felipe.
No futters in France. So sorry.
Yeah.
No tough questions there. Patient Hodler. No, I like that. Right. And like, I tried to, here's the thing that I want to point out to people. Like you can ask those questions, but in reality, you also got to think like, will he answer them is the first thing. You got to, if you're an interviewer, right? And then also like, if they don't answer them and they cut it short, like what does that gain for anyone? Now, I think you should ask tough questions. Don't get me wrong. I'm not pulling back from that, right? But there's a time and a place to do that, I think, and I felt like on my channel, I asked a lot of questions. I asked about IPFS. I asked about, like a lot of questions that people had asked. I brought up OMI, like, why hasn't the team, can you say something about OMI? I didn't want to get too much into it, right? Because again, founders can get into hot water if they do talk about their token and price somehow comes out in any way, even unintentionally. So like, those are the types of things that like I try to be cognizant of, careful. But like, look, man, I'd love for you to do that stream and ask whatever additional questions you have on that. But so okay, the last thing here. Well, you can choose, right? We can either talk about your thoughts on the latest SEC versus Coinbase kind of dialogue that went back and forth. Do you know anything about that? Like, are you up to date on anything that happened?
I only know that they were basically discussing whether the Howey test is applicable or not, if you mean that. So if it's outdated or not, but I didn't read any protocols or I didn't see any. I know that they were like doing an inquiry for 4 hours or so there were a hearing, right? For
Yeah.
4 hours. And it still wasn't resolved after that. So
correct.
What's the other topic?
The other topic is other tokens and projects that you're interested in for this upcoming potential bull run.
The what? Sorry, again.
Other tokens or projects that you're interested in for the upcoming potential bull run.
Then I'd rather go with the Coinbase thing, I guess, because if we open up a new topic with other projects, then I fear
that longer
than 10 minutes. Yep, and then I can completely forget tomorrow.
Yes, well, I have to give you such a big shout out, man. I know that it is super late where you are, and I appreciate you always coming, whether it's around the Comiverse or just chatting with people, man. You really are you give so freely of your time, which is very valuable. Time is the most valuable thing that we have.
Yep, that's true.
So appreciate you for that. So, well, I'll give you a little bit more overview of SEC versus Coinbase right now. I still haven't been able to read some of the transcript, or watch some of the videos, but I was following people who were reporting on it. while it was live, right? And and the sense that I got is that the judge kept just like slamming the SEC on things and their stances on that, right? Um, and ultimately, the judge was like, "I'm not making a decision right now." She had the right if she had wanted to make the ruling, and I do think that and I love that, right? That it wasn't some sort of like predetermined, almost predetermined, because it's tough to like hear 4 hours of arguments and then just be like, "Here's my decision," and be like, "Did you really ponder and think over all of the arguments?" Like, I feel like that's hard to do, truly, right? And so I think that she wants to go back and review everything and all the arguments and then come out and really have like a very succinct statement on her feelings and her ruling on that. But so the whole court case in general, though, is about the staking products,
Yeah.
right? That Coinbase, they're saying, hey, these are securities because of this staking mechanism. And one of the things that Coinbase is saying is like, we told you about the staking mechanisms when we did our IPO. You had the chance to reject it then. Why are you rejecting it now or saying it's a security now when you didn't say it was there before? And the SEC has caught themselves a lot in this, right? With the whole Bitcoin spot ETF. They approved the Bitcoin futures ETF. And then all of a sudden they're going back and they're like, nope, there's too much chance for market manipulation. And they're like, well, it's the same product. So like your argument doesn't hold water.
99% correlated on the market because the market plays a big role. If it's too similar, you have to basically consider it in a similar way. And it was like 99% overlap. They also already approved us Ethereum futures ETF. So I guess Ethereum ETF should be a done deal.
Yeah, in May. I really do think that it's going to happen in May. And people are like, oh, they're going to push it back. And I'm like, there's no reason to delay the inevitable, because if they push it back and if they push it back again, right, they look silly because they're going to have to approve it, because the minute they don't approve it, they're going to get slapped with lawsuits and they're going to lose the lawsuit. So like they painted themselves into a corner. So ETH ETF, you've heard it here. It is a high probability that the ETH spot ETF gets approved in May. And that's why
if you get a spot ETH ETF, you will also get some other altcoin ETFs subsequently. Like, for example, Chainlink would be a super easy precedent because it never was labeled security, has a Swift partnership, works with banks and so on. So if ETH ETF gets approved, you're quickly to have other altcoin ETFs as well.
So here's where I will pump the brakes. For me, my thought is, and they kind of changed the wording because they initially were just like, Bitcoin isn't a security, all other tokens are securities, right? And then they kind of have changed their tune and in their verbiage and how they're saying things, right? And they're like, most coins are now. But so here's where I think that I don't think that they want to set the precedent of more and more altcoins becoming securities. They painted themselves in the corner with with ETH and Bitcoin because of the futures ETFs that they had approved. I do think some other altcoins will eventually get approved as spot ETFs, but I do think that it's going to be a while, like into 2025 or beyond. I don't think that we're going to get any other altcoin ETFs this year, but we'll see.
I think what is interesting though, which I did read, hit subscribe to everyone. Yeah, let's go. And especially here, if you are not subscribed on this channel and liking, is mandatory right now for everyone that is still left over. But I think what was interesting, what I did read in an article, was that the judge questioned even if the SEC if that's the SEC's jurisdiction, so to say, to deal with that. Because technically, if you're discussing whether the Howey test is applicable or you need new rules, it's the SEC to give to suggest a framework, but it's not the SEC who will create in the end the financial laws. It's not the lawmaker, right? So in the end, I think if there is any doubt that the Howey test is not applicable to these digital assets in that form, I think then the SEC is done anyways discussing all of that. And then it will be a long, dragged out process where hopefully, also the ECOMI team will say, okay, well then, fuck it. If we are 15 years out to have clear framework, then we just do what we are going to do, right? And for the next 15 years, we're up. In the end, most altcoin projects did operate in the way that they said, we do what we do, and if we get a slap on the wrist in the end, like a fine, even if it's heavier, then we'll pay it. So a lot of projects did that already. Yeah.
I personally think that there is enough regulatory clarity now after the Ripple decision.
Yeah.
And I say that because the Ripple decision, the judge basically said, and I had this back and forth with VeVe and Chill, and I 100% believe that I destroyed that argument of OMI being a security traded on the secondary market after this decision. They talked about the buyers on the secondary market, and the judge herself, it wasn't the actual buyers. I can't remember the term off the top of my head, but there's another group of individuals that she compared to buyers on the secondary market and basically said it's not a contract at that point. They don't know who they're buying the token from. How can it be an investment contract with this person, right? Like with this company. And so to me, I feel like there's enough regulatory clarity that if the SEC tried to do that and tie a token to the secondary market and say it was a security, they would point back to that decision and say that this is a precedent because she compares the secondary market buyer to these individuals. And she said that those individuals weren't purchasing a security either. And so the SEC, they just wouldn't win that. I believe that they wouldn't win that. And so I think that there's enough regulatory clarity now where they're like, well, we didn't do the raise in the US anyways. So even if the raise was considered a security, it wasn't to US investors. So now we're in the clear and now we don't have to worry about it. And that's one of the reasons I think that we're getting exchanges, we're getting all this utility. I think that a lot of the stuff with OMI is happening this year. So with that, like I just want to give you the last word, Patient Hodler. And again, thank you so much for your time. And I love these chats. I'm stoked to have you on my channel and definitely have to do this again.
Yeah, let's do this again. And thanks for having me. And yeah, guys, make sure if you didn't smash the like button right now for Dr. Stuff's stream here, then I cannot help you. So, but yeah, thanks for having me and all these great points. It's always inspiring for me to challenge my viewpoints with yours. And I hope we do that in summer in real life.
Yeah, I cannot wait to meet you in real life. And so, hey, thanks so much, everyone who stayed around this long. I really appreciate your support. And if you haven't already, I'm sure you already have, but please also follow Patient Hodler. I love his very logical take on things and how he thinks, because there are definitely viewpoints that he'll bring up that I'm like, man, I had not thought about that. Very valuable insight. So I definitely think it's worth your time to subscribe to his channel and to listen to his insights. So thanks again, everyone. Appreciate you. Take care.